Hi, I'm Dan Murphy, and you are watching DSAlumni. Where are they now? And I am here with a DS alum. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Harry Rose. I'm a 1972 graduate of Dover Sherman High School.
All right.
And,
So what have you been up to since 1972?
yeah, a few things. A number of things. I've taught school. I've had started my own business, which I left a number of years ago. I've been a golf professional for the last 20 years, PGA professional, and coached football here for 10 years, coached baseball here for a couple of years. So a number of different things, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, so obviously a big, athletics has played a big role in your life, it's seeming like. So how did maybe DS start you down that path?
Well, back then, what we loved, my friends and I, we all loved playing every sport that was in season. It gave you the opportunity to play. I liked to play. I liked football, basketball, baseball, and those opportunities were there. It was just a great environment. Playing with your friends, developing friendships, not only with your teammates, but other teams throughout the league, which I've stayed in touch with a number of the players through the years and hear from them and the coaches on a regular basis. It was just a great place to be, a great time to be in school, to be playing sports, and again, it really has become was a big part of my life. I loved that period in time prior to this specialization thing, which I don't even want to get started on that. I'm not a firm believer in specialization. I think, try a little of this, a little of that, treat it like it's kind of a buffet. Enjoy, try a little of everything. See what works for you.
Well, and that's also carried over in coaching. You've coached various sports. It sounds like too. So, how was that transition from playing sports to then coming back and coaching them?
Well, like so many of us, the older we get, the better we were. But it's to watch the kids grow. The kids now are so good. They're so big. They're so athletic. They both, and I love to see the participation of the girls, young ladies. That's changed so much since I was in school. Back then, it was the girls were encouraged to either be cheerleaders or maybe run cross country. Now they're playing sports at the same with the same regularity as the guys, and I'd love to see that. We were talking just a few minutes ago before we came on about just the participation in general amongst the students. I think that's great. I'm sure it's upwards of 90% of the students are involved in some sport at one time or another during the year.
Yeah,
I think that's really good, and I'd love to be part of that.
Yeah, and you came and you coached football here for 10 years?
I coached football here for 10 years, yeah. I coached baseball for a couple of years, coached gymnastics for a year.
Okay, so how did all those coaching opportunities come about for you?
Well, I had been teaching and coaching in Connecticut, Plainfield High School in Plainfield, Connecticut, and the opportunity came up here, and the head coaching job became available, and I said, boy, I'd love to go back and coach at my alma mater. So I applied for the job. I got the job and had 10 great years. Had some terrific success, not so much on the win-loss side, but to watch and follow some of the kids' careers after graduation. Not necessarily athletically, but a number on one team alone. I think I have four boys that became doctors. Successful in their business careers and their choice of careers. So that's what's I always thought kind of made Dover Sherman stand out a little bit without sounding a little snobby there. But they did. And I'm sure they would look back and think their sports was a part of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's one of the things is that, it's very easy to focus on wins and losses, but, there's learning opportunities there in sports, and I don't know if maybe you likely agree with that, but I'd maybe elaborate on that more, how you absorb that as a coach.
Oh, I think, yeah, there's no question about it. I think you're going to learn, probably you can learn more in just even a loss than a win. I mean, it's sometimes difficult to there were some years there it was pretty lean for our football team, not to mention what our records were. But we didn't have a lot of success as far as wins and losses. But those young men would get out there and they would work and they would work and they would work. And sometimes I would step back with the other coaches and look and say, what is motivating them right now? Really, it's cold. We're not winning a lot of games. Yet they're out there, they're working hard, they've got a smile on their face. And I think, and I used to tell them, I said, someday you're going to look back on this and you're going to say, man, what I would give to be out there running sprints with Coach What's-His-Name. And I said, I want you to think about that. Those are the kind of things that I really wanted the kids to take with them. And so when things get a little rough down the road, they can look back and they say, hey, I put up with that guy. I can put up with a lot of things. So, and it's been kind of very rewarding for me to see some of the former players and what they're doing today.
Okay, so do you keep in touch with
a lot
some
of them? I do.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Yeah, a number of them I do. Not as many as I would like. But I try to. I try to follow them on social media or whatever, and yeah, I do try to. And now so many of the kids I have are parents and grandparents, if you will, and that's hard to believe. But where'd that time go?
Yeah. So then maybe let's talk about your work with the PGA a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do there?
Teaching professional primarily. I'm at Needham Golf Club. And I've been there for 21 years. So I teach golf. A lot of golf. A lot of students I have are residents of Dover and Sherburne, and it's great. It's always good to be working with people, whether they're young or old. And I mean, I work with people as young as 4 or 5. I had somebody come in recently and they said, I'd like you to work with my son. I said, how old's your son? They said 4. I said, well, they said he'll be 4 on his next birthday. I said, well, that makes him 3, right? I think that's a little bit young. But, I mean, if they're really into it, that's fine. I had a woman come in, she said, she was 92. She said, I want to work on my golf game. I said, you better hurry it up, really, because 92, let's face it, your best game's probably behind you. But you love to see that. And so working with people of all ages, and that's what I look forward to doing every day.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I've been doing it and want to continue to as long as health will allow me to. Yeah.
All right, and so they keep you kind of appraised about what's going on here. Or how often do you make it back to Dover and Sherburne?
Not as much as I stay in touch with Steve Ryan, the football coach, who was one of my assistants when I was here. So I stay in touch with Steve, very, very good friend of mine. John Kirby, who's a very successful golf and tennis coach here at the school. He and I have been best friends since first grade. So I stay in touch with him on like every few days we speak. To one other, Michael King, who you mentioned.
Yeah.
But I don't get back to the school as much as I'd like, and every time I do, there's new changes. I'm shocked. I mean, we're sitting in right now. This was the smoking lounge when I was in high school, which doesn't probably exist anymore. But
yeah.
So things have changed, and every time I come back, I'm shocked at the changes to the campus and everything about it. But it's all changes for the better.
Yeah, and then do you feel that the community around the school has changed as well since you were here?
Well, yes, I think it has. I mean, Dover has changed a lot since we moved here in 1960, so you can imagine the changes that I've seen. The Donley Estate across the street here was, in fact, just the Donley Estate. It was one main house, and now for years, it's been a development. The town has changed a lot. I mean, the homes, these monstrous homes, and it didn't exist so much. I mean, everyone always, I remember when I was growing up, everyone talked about the rich kids from Dover. People were coming in from other towns to play, and they'd say, we're going to play the rich kids from Dover. Well, we never thought of ourselves as the rich kids. The rich kids, I thought, were all in private schools. I don't think I ever knew them. We lived it was a nice town, small developments, and that was the town we grew up in. But we never thought of ourselves as the rich kids from Dover. But boy, I'll tell you drive through it now, and I'm sure when some of the people come in on buses from some of the other towns, they're looking, they're going, wow, is that for one family? I do remember we were scrimmaging West Roxbury in football, and they were looking at it and they saying, is that for one family? Right there. I mean, some of these homes they're enormous. They really are enormous. It's pretty impressive, but it's changed. It has changed a lot.
And then what about the people? Do you feel the people of Dover have changed dramatically?
I don't know how to answer that exactly. I don't know if, because I'm not as involved in the town. I know when I was growing up, there were certain families, I mentioned, like the McGills, for instance, and they were kind of well known in town, the big families, number of families, and it doesn't seem to be quite a little bit more transient than it used to be, perhaps. But maybe that's just the way the world is today. I don't think you're seeing people that are growing up here, living here for the rest of their lives and raising families, grandchildren, and such here. The Dover Softball League, for instance, and I hope I'm not going to offend anyone when I say that, but the Dover Softball League, which for years was a lot of young adults playing, well, that doesn't exist anymore because there's not a lot of 20, 25, 30-year-old adults that live in the town that have the time to play softball. So in a lot of ways it has changed somewhat.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, not a bad thing at all. It's just a change.
Different, yeah.
It's just different. So it is a little different than it was.
Yeah. So looking back at your time in high school, what are some of your fondest memories?
Oh my God, that's one of the best times of my life. Oh God, I hope my wife doesn't hear me say that. But it was one of my favorite times of my life was my high school years. Well, again, playing the sports, involved in sports, the friendships that you develop, and the friendships I've maintained through sports. But it was great. The teachers were great. We had just a great group of teachers. I'm sure they still do. It was a fun time. You really develop relationships with your teachers, not only as mentors, but friends as well. And I've maintained that friendship with a number of my teachers to this day, which is.
Oh, I mean, and that
it's
helps
really
when you come back as a coach and then
oh, sure.
become your peers more so than.
Yeah, but a number of them, they insist I refer to them as by their first name. I just can't do it. I still have too much respect for like Mr. Davis and Mr. Marlborough, and it's hard for me to call him Tom and Bill. It just doesn't feel right for me. I still have a lot of respect for those guys, and so my experience here was a really good one. I enjoyed all of it.
Yeah. Maybe talk a little bit about academically how you felt DS was while you were here. Did you feel it was challenging and really establishing that at a high standard that
well,
now it finds itself?
Yeah, I mean it's always rated one of the top schools in Massachusetts, if not right up there in the United States. You never thought about that when you were in school. You do what was asked of you, and I felt like we were getting a good. But I guess you don't think about that. I didn't so much as how lucky I was to be where I was, getting the education I was getting. When you're 17, 18 years old, you're thinking about other things. But I really appreciate it now. I really do appreciate it now. It was, and I'm sure is just a great place to have gone to school.
Yeah, and you really do feel like all those lessons that you learned here have carried forward.
Oh, absolutely.
In life. Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, we had great role models. As our teachers were great role models. You mentioned Mr. Wakely. Nobody was better than Mr. Wakely, as far as I was concerned. He was our principal for my 4 years of school. He was terrific, and Mr. Marlborough, and so many of our teachers, Mr. Davis. So they were all fabulous. The drama department, which coming in here, I see these. I remember some of the plays and musicals they performed. Mrs. Lombardo she was terrific. I mean, it was like Broadway performances they would put on, and it was. We were very fortunate, very fortunate. And again, I don't think I realized it at the time. I do now. So.
Yeah. Then and now you've started a family since.
Yeah, I've got a little baby girl who's 19 years old, and in college, second year of college. I'm married to a lovely woman from Norwood, Lisa, and then I've got two grown stepdaughters as well. So I've got a good-sized family. Yeah, it's great, but they're growing up awfully fast. They're grown up awfully fast, I should say.
Do they get sick of your stories back here?
Yes. Yeah, they do. My youngest one will roll her eyes or just leave the room. But and I think my wife Lisa, I think her eyes glaze over every now and then. But you know, when your friends get together, we you know, as I say before, the older we get, the better we were. I think at this point she's heard most all the stories, so she tunes out. But
Yeah, and that was just a bell. So, yeah.
all right. But I don't know what else to say. I did mention we've got a class reunion coming up this weekend,
yeah.
so I'm going to get to hang out with a bunch of old people.
Well, so are you looking forward to
Absolutely.
seeing some of these people?
Oh yeah, really looking forward to this. Will be well, they put a number of classes together, and so this will be. If I graduate in '72, we'll do the math. I've been out for a while. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it's been that long.
I mean, are there particular people that you have not kept in touch with that you're perhaps
well, there's a number of them
that
they have a list of people that are going to be going, and it'll be great to to see them, touch base with them, see where their lives have taken them. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah.
But,
and you still have a core group that you kind of keep in touch with.
Yeah, as I mentioned, John Kirby, who's coaching here at the school, I stay in touch with him on a regular basis. Michael King, Casey Potts, who's a longtime teacher here.
Yes.
And so yeah, still a number of them.
Yeah.
I try to stay in touch with them as much as possible. You know, months become years, and before you know it, you're at your 45th reunion. So.
Really look forward to it. So that's exciting.
I am, yeah.
So is there anything else that maybe you want to touch on or add about what you've been up to, what you feel, what you kind of can remember about the school or experiences or how it's kind of impacted your life?
Well, again, I just have nothing but fond memories of my experience as a Dover-Sherburne student. I feel very fortunate. I hope that the students here at Dover-Sherburne realize how fortunate they are to be where they are. I feel so bad for the ones that aren't given this opportunity. And really, it's such a jump start. I mean, it's just a great place to get off the bus, as Mr. Wakely said years ago. He said, you know, I know we're always ranked up amongst the best schools in the state. He says, don't give us all the credit. A lot of credit goes to those students to get off the bus, and that's a credit to the families and how education is really encouraged, and parental support is great. And again, I think it's just a great community.
Yeah,
and I miss it. I wish I could have returned here and raised my daughters here, but that wasn't to be.
No, well, I mean, you know, and I do think that you're right. The community and their support for the school is such a big part of it.
It's terrific. It really is. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Of course.
And enjoy your reunion.
Yeah, I will. I will. Thank you so much.
So
Very
much.
nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you as well.